It's a Friday afternoon. My oldest son, who's a senior in high school, comes into the house, drops his backpack on the kitchen table, and without even a hello, announces, "I'm going to this party tonight, and I'm going to break my curfew." This time, instead of my usual, "Oh, no, you're not," I calmly responded with a 2-word phrase. "Yes, and let's talk about the consequences." That 2-word phrase opened up a dialogue between myself and my son, where I got to hear how important it was for him to belong to this particular social group and go to this party. And in turn, I got to express my concern for his safety, because I suspected there was going to be alcohol at this party, and my need for beauty sleep. Because as a parent of a teenager who's out for the evening, you don't go to sleep unless you know your teenager is home and safe. We were able to work out a compromise that satisfied both of our needs. We went from battleground to common ground. This 2-word phrase opened up a pivotal moment in our relationship. It changed the trajectory of where it was going. In subsequent years, when my son went off to college and beyond, whenever he got himself into a bit of trouble, he didn't hesitate to pick up the phone, to call me, to talk through whatever challenge he was going through. So why was using yes and so effective? Well, let's try a little experiment. Let's say we were to plan the after party for this event. You might contribute a statement such as, "Let's have this party outdoors." Yes, but now we have to consider what we're going to do if it rains or we have inclement weather. Let's try this again. "Let's have this party outdoors." Yes, and we could rent tents or find an alternative space indoors in the event we have rain or inclement weather. Let's debrief both of those responses. Which one made you feel diminished? The yes, but, or the yes, and?
Yes,
but. Which one made you feel more valued? The yes, but, or the yes, and?
Yes, and.
With which response do you feel like we'd get more accomplished in our planning? The yes, but, or the yes, and?
Yes, and.
What most people don't know is that our words can trigger changes in our brain and in our body chemistry. Words can either open us up to have a healthy dialogue, or they can shut us down. The late Judith Glaser, who was an organizational anthropologist, was one of the first to recognize the correlation and association with our words, how they make us feel, and our body chemistry. She wrote, "Our words can trigger the production of hormones and neurotransmitters that change our body chemistry. When we hear a yes, but, it can make us feel criticized, judged, or even threatened. This triggers the production of cortisol, which is our stress hormone. Our stress hormone then puts us into the state of fight or flight. We either withdraw from a conversation or we push back. On the other hand, when we hear a yes and, it creates the experience of acceptance, of sharing, of collaboration. Yes doesn't necessarily mean agreement. It's acknowledgement. You've been heard. The and signals that whatever you've contributed is going to be built upon. Yes and triggers the production of our neurotransmitter oxytocin, which is associated with trust and bonding. And that's necessary for a healthy relationship. Enthused with this knowledge of how our language can impact our body chemistry, along with that pivotal yes and moment with my son, I dive deeper into what is known as applied improvisation, of which yes and is a part of. Applied improvisation is taking theatrical improvisation concepts, the theories, the exercises, the philosophy, and bringing them into other areas such as business, healthcare, or education. At the time, I was an adjunct professor in the School of Communications at Queen's University in Charlotte, North Carolina. I decided I would bring improv into my classrooms. I started many of my classes with an improv exercise. What I found was that student attendance rates went up, and students seemed more engaged. I shared these observations and experiences with a colleague, Dr. Kyle Thompson, at Appalachian State University. She suggested we make this a research project. Together, we conducted a 2-year research study with 2 cohorts of graduate students, where I facilitated improv exercises with the students during the course of their semesters. After 2 years of collecting data through pre and post surveys, which were administered before and after our improv sessions, our data showed that we moved the dial in statistically significant ways with improving the students' empathetic communication skills. Now, as a communications coach and consultant, I often use applied improvisation techniques with my clients. Have you ever had the experience of feeling reluctant or hesitant to speak up in a meeting because you felt your idea was not going to be accepted? A client, Anna, had a similar situation. She had received feedback from her manager that she wasn't speaking up. She wasn't contributing in team meetings. Anna felt fearful because she felt that her ideas and her viewpoints were not going to be accepted by her teammates. Using a yes and approach, she found it easier to insert herself in these meetings. She accepted what other teammates had offered and built on top of what they had contributed with her own contributions. She found that her teammates actually appreciated her perspective and viewpoints because they were different from what they were thinking. Anna went from battleground to common ground. Another client, Gina, was in conflict with a co-leader of a large team. They differed over strategy that would enable their team to reach their goals. In a heated conversation, Gina used yes and to get to agreement with her co-leader. Their team not only met their goals, they exceeded them. Gina went from battleground to common ground. By now, you might be thinking, how might I use a yes and approach in a situation either personally or professionally where there's conflict? Yes and is all about making a connection with others and allowing them to have voice. As humans, we are hardwired for connection, and we all want to have a voice. These 2 simple words, yes and, can change the course of a conversation, can resolve conflicts or challenges, can save a relationship, can even enhance the well-being of you and your conversation partner. Yes and are 2 simple yet powerful words that can transform a battleground to common ground. The next time you are in a situation where there's conflict, different points of view, perspectives, and you want to get to agreement, how are you going to respond? Hopefully, with a say it with me, yes and. Thank you. Thanks.